I love to go thrifting and collecting mini tins. So today I thought we'd take those tins and transform them into some fun craft hack ideas. Let's get started. I thought this was a fun little tin. It was kind of a unique shape. I haven't seen one like this before. It was an old English tea tin. I'm going to be filling it up with these tumbling blocks that I got from Dollar Tree. You could use some craft sticks if you prefer. Just find any little wood piece that will fit within your tin. You want to just make sure that you've got enough room in there so you can pull one out or a few out at a time. I'm going to take the measurements of a tumbling block as I'm going to do something really fun with it. Sometimes I get stuck trying to come up with some ideas on what to craft, maybe like a theme or what colors to use. So I wanted to create myself a little prompt box for different creative ideas. So for my prompts, I created these stickers in Cricut Design Space. I printed them out and cut them out on some Cricut paper sticker sheets. And I did the kiss cut feature, which means it only cuts into the top layer. It kept them all on the backing sheet, and I peeled them one off individually and then placed them onto my little blocks here. Now, you could use a Sharpie and just handwrite, but my printing is kind of messy, so I wanted to try this out, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. And then I've got these sheets all ready to go. I could print it out again and cut them out again and use them as desired. So what I did was I took like similar items. So example would be a bird and a butterfly. I put it on the same block along with cut and paste and needlework, words, photos, kind of similar type of idea on how you could use those things. And then I'm not going to be getting like a theme that's like country plus modern. I thought that way here it would make it a little bit easier for me, and I thought this would just be such a fun way to come up with some unique creative ideas if you're feeling a little stuck. So I'm going to just put them back into my tin. And then I'm going to decorate the top because I wasn't too keen on how the top looked. I've got this label here. It's just a pre-made label, and I'm going to round off the corners. I thought it would look more symmetrical with the top of the lid that I already have going on. And then before I adhere my label to the top of the container, I thought I should practice spelling out what I want it to say. And all I'm going to be doing is writing creative prompts. I decided to handwrite this or hand print it, but of course you could print this out as well if you'd like. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill my tag in. I'll be using this Aleene's glue stick. It's an industrial strength glue stick. So far, I've been pretty happy with it. I had just got it this year and I'm quite pleased with it. So I'm going to generously apply some glue onto the back of my label or tag, and then I'm going to put it into place. Now, the beauty of using a glue stick is that you can move it around a little bit, but it's not going to go and warp the paper. I'm just going to use a bone folder to smooth it out, and then it's ready to be used as desired, or whenever you're feeling stuck. Somebody had given me some little coffee mints in this tin, but I don't really like this tin. It's a little smaller than what I usually find. I'm going to be covering it up with some gesso, so I decided I'm going to sand it down just to create a little bit more grip to the tin. I'm going to wipe off all that dust, and now I'm going to go ahead and apply some gesso. I will be giving a total of 2 coats of the gesso. Now, I've got a video all about gesso for you to check out. If you have any questions, I'm going to have that video linked down in the video description box below. It's just a great primer to use because sometimes the paints on stuff like this can seep through, causing like some seepage of the color, like it will bleed, and also give nice coverage so then your images off of that tin aren't going to show through your next layer. as I'm going to be using this beautiful fabric. It's kind of thin, and I tested it out off camera, and the image from the tin was showing through that fabric. All right, so I'm going to be decoupaging this onto my tin. So I'm just going to create a pencil line around the bottom of the lid. I do not want to decoupage above that line. I also had made a mistake, which I'm going to be going through, as I created too much bulk underneath the lid as well, causing me some problems to close it. But again, I'll be showing you that in a bit. All right, so I'm just going to trim my fabric down. And then I'm going to start to decoupage. Now I like to use a matte finish, and use your favorite brand of decoupage glue. I'm going to give a coat onto the top of the tin. I will be doing this in sections. I like to start with the top, put my fabric into place, and then I'm going to be adding a coat of decoupage on top, and I will allow that to dry well before I move on to the sides and the base of the tin. So I've allowed that to dry well. That's going to help to hold the fabric in place as I start to work on the sides. It'll just make it a lot easier, so it's not going to fall off on me as I continue to glue this into place. Just trimming off any of the excess, and I needed to cut a few little slits into the fabric so I can work around the hinges that are on the back side of the tin. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut some slits here that are going to be the same width as my hinges, and then I'm going to cut that little piece out, and then it's going to be the exact width that I need to fit around the hinge. Now I'm going to start to work on the side. So I'm just going to apply some glue, then press the fabric into place, and then you'll be needing to add some more glue over top as you go. On the corners, there was a little bit of bulk that built up, but you can just kind of cut that away a little bit and add some more glue just to help to seal that all up. At the back here, I'm going to go ahead and add some of the glue, and then I'm taking a flat metal spatula and I'm going to push the excess fabric through. I just wanted to make sure that it was nice and clean looking at the back side, and I felt like this was the best way to achieve that. It's going to kind of, I guess, hide any of the edges that could potentially get frayed or pop off along the way. Now I'm going to start to seal it with the glue, adding some, and then I'm going to press it down with my finger. That'll help to smooth out any wrinkles. And this is where I started to make my mistake. So you can see I have a little extra fabric. I rolled that onto the inside and then I sealed it all up. Well, first of all, it ended up gluing itself shut, so I had to try and pry this thing open. You can see also I had already worked on the bottom here, and there was just too much bulk underneath that lid. But before I fix that, at the base, I closed the lid, and now I'm going to run a sharp knife along the bottom edge of that lid, and that's going to remove the excess fabric, and it's going to line up right along the pencil line that we had created. So I'm going to go ahead and cut away all that fabric, and now you can see how that is looking. That excess fabric is gone, except for maybe a few little edges that I need to clean up. But I'm struggling to open this, so that's when I'm like, oh, shoot, I really shouldn't have added that fabric on the inside of the lid. So don't do that. Don't do like what I did. But if you do, this is how I cleaned it up. I just, again, used a sharp knife and I cut away. It was sticking really well, which was great to know, because then I know that the fabric is going to stay nicely onto this tin. But I'm going to just slowly work on this until I get all of that inside material removed. Okay, so that is looking so much better, and now I'm not having any problems opening that lid. The lid where it was closing, it did remove some of the gesso along the rim there, but I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me. Okay, so now I'm going to just start to clean this up. I'm smoothing out some of those edges. I'm also adding a bit of the decoupage glue to the top edge to make sure it doesn't fray. And now to clean up the mess on the inside of the tin, I'm going to be decoupaging some scrapbook paper onto the inside. I needed to trace around the tin. I'm using a really nice pointed tipped pencil. This is just a mechanical pencil, just tracing around it, and then I'm going to be cutting on the inside lines of the pencil line. If it doesn't fit like mine does there, you just have to trim off the excess until you can get it to fit. Again, I'm using the Aleene's glue stick again, the industrial strength. I'm going to generously apply the glue to the inside of the lid, and then I'm also going to apply some to the back of the paper as needed. Alright, so I added the paper to the inside and the bottom. Now I'm going to start to fill this little tin up with some sewing notions that I had on hand. Got these little spools to put my thread on. I thought that was a fun touch. Found these little scissors at the thrift store. I just sharpened them up here at home. And I thought it would make a great little traveling sewing notions box. Got some little safety pins, and I'm going to cut down a piece of felt to put my needles into. So I just needed to cut this down to size, and this piece was too big. So I took a needle here and I put it into place, and then I was able to get the exact size I needed to fit inside the box, as well as to fit the length of the needles. So for these little spools, I cut a little slit on the top of the little bobbin, and that will give me a place to hold the one end of the thread, just like you would see in a regular spool of thread. I'm tucking the end inside and I'm going to wrap around it. That'll help to hold this thread into place. And then I'm going to add a slit on the other end, and that will give me a place to place the other end of this string. And I just kept my colors neutral for that. I've got this cute little container that I had in my stash. I'm filling that up with some neutral buttons, and then I'm going to put that into place, and I'll add the other little items I have on hand. This is definitely going to be really handy to have. I don't have a little mending kit, so I'm really glad this came together the way it did. This has got to be my biggest tin, and it's that I have for you today. It's nice and small still. It was a loose leaf green tea tin, and it's my absolute favorite tin that I have found. It is just absolutely beautiful. Some of these tins, we are going to transform them completely, and others, we're going to just repurpose them in some new ways. That's exactly what we're going to do with this tin. I'm going to be filling it up with some baby wipes. Now, I just grabbed this package from my dollar store, and you can see they are too big to fit inside. I could just bunch them up and throw them in, but I thought I would try to create it so then as I pull one out, it'll release the next one and they'll just kind of unfold on each other like they usually do in a package. So I folded it in half. I'm going to layer them on top of each other, just offset. Fold one edge over the other, and I'm going to continue to do that. I'm hoping that as I pull them up, like I mentioned before, it's going to pull up the other one so it's all ready to go for me to grab. I hope that makes sense. Like I said, you could just shove them in there, or maybe you could find a package of baby wipes that are the size of your tin. So all I did was fold them up until I had a stack that was the height of the tin. I'm going to place them inside. You can see I've got them on their side, and then I was able to kind of flip it over while it was inside the tin. And then all I need to do is add the airtight seal. There was a nice plastic airtight seal, and as well as the decorative tin lid as well. This is going to be perfect to use in my craft room. I'm actually curious to know, what are some ideas that you have come up with on how to reuse small tins like these? I picked up this cute little puzzle tin from Dollar Tree a few years ago. I had been experimenting and I had repurposed that puzzle. I set that puzzle aside. I'll use it for something else at a later date. I'm gonna again give this tin a coat of the gesso, but again, you must sand first. Originally, I forgot to do that, so I just quickly sanded it, and now I've cleaned it off, and now I'm gonna go ahead and apply 1 to 2 coats of the gesso. I've allowed that to dry well, and now I'm going to give this a coat of some chalk paint. You can use any color that you'd like. I believe this is called Whisper. I'm going to go ahead and give this a coat of the chalk paint. The gesso will help the chalk paint adhere really well to the tin. So I allowed the paint to dry well to the top and the bottom, and now I wanted to try something fun, and that was to try and create a distressed look on the tin. So I'm going to be using some Distress Oxide inks in a green color, vintage photo, and frayed burlap. And I'm just going to create kind of like a mottled look. So I'm taking a makeup sponge and I'm just going to sponge it onto the tin, starting with the green and then adding the other 2 colors. Of course, you can use any colors that you like, and you don't have to use the Distress Oxide. You could use maybe some color wash, anything you'd like, just to create this kind of look. You don't even have to do that. You could just leave the paint as is, but I wanted to try and create a bit of an artsy look to this piece. So here is the before and after of what that looks like. Okay, so next up, I'm going to be adding some lace to the top of the lid. And you may be wondering, well, why did I bother adding the distress ink? Well, you're going to actually see those distress inks coming through the lace. They are water activated, and I'm using some decoupage glue on this, and that's going to help to seep through the lace. And it's a really cool effect. I'll show you what it looks like here in a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and add some decoupage glue to the top, and then I'm going to put my lace into place. I'm going to go ahead and put that down and press that into the glue. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some decoupage glue over the top. And it actually ends up taking quite a bit because it's going down into all the little empty spots of the lace, like the exposed parts of the lace. So you will have to be quite generous with the decoupage glue. All right, so it's all nice and dry. You can see the colors coming through from the distress inks. Flipped it upside down onto a flat surface, and I'm trimming away all the excess lace around the top of the lid. I think this looks so pretty. It's got kind of like a vintage look to it. I love that. I'm gonna add just a little bit of extra glue around the edges just to help to seal in all those sides. So I'm just going to use this tiny little bird image. It's kind of got a vintage look. I'm going to add that to the top of this lace. I am using kind of a different glue. It's like a gel glue. It's similar to Fabri-Tac. I'm going to add some of that to the back. It's quick drying, but you do have enough time to spread it out. And then I'm going to put that into place. I figured that would help to grip onto the lace a little bit better. But of course, use your favorite glue to do this step. Okay, so at this point, you can use this tin any way you'd like. I have this jar full of some artist trading cards. I've noticed artist trading cards are really exploding again. I'll have a link explaining what they are, but pretty much they're like a trading card, like you would trade a sports card or a Pokemon card, except these are cards that are created by artists. So I'm going to fill my little tin up with some of these, some that are already complete, some that I would like to work on. I thought this would be a great way to say, take your little art projects on the go, or say you do want to go and hand these off to somebody. This will give you a nice pretty container to hold them in. So when you're out and about, you can give these artist trading cards away. If you need to, you can trim some of your cards down. Some of my watercolor pieces were too big, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim them off. A lot of these cards were just like little mixed media experiments. They are really fun to create, and again, I highly encourage you to check that out. This tin is a really fun piece. I did not want to transform this because I just think it's such a unique look, and I thought it was really fun and kind of whimsical looking. So I wanted to leave it as is, but we're going to be using it in a way that maybe you haven't thought of before. So the first thing I needed to do though was reattach the lid. So I'm just pulling back on the hinges here, and I'm going to go ahead and put that lid into place and then press those hinges in. I don't know what happened, why the tin lid was off, but hey, at least I was able to fix it up quite easily. So this is a quick and easy project. I thought it would be a great way to store some card games. So these boxes were falling apart, and I didn't want these games to get lost or accidentally thrown out or anything. So I thought, what a great way to store them was in this tin. So I'm just going to put some elastic bands around each card set, and then I'm going to put multiple different card games inside this box. It was the perfect size. I love this, and I could take this traveling or just set it on the shelf anywhere in a bookshelf. I just thought it would be such a fun and whimsical way to store cards. I think we've all seen Altoid tins. They are a great little tins to alter. You could add some little paint pans into here by adding some little magnets to the bottom. That would be great to turn these into little watercolor kits, but I'm going to try something different. I'm using some Canson watercolor paper. It is a nice, thick, and sturdy watercolor paper. And I'm going to be cutting it down to size to fit inside this tin. So I'm going to take some measurements here, and then I'm going to take my paper trimmer and I'm going to cut these pieces down to size. So I've already cut them down one way, and now I'm going to be cutting them down the width ways, and then I'm going to have some pieces that will fit inside the cute little Altoid tins. All right, so I've got a nice little stack. I'm going to take 2 of these, and what I'm going to be doing is creating some watercolor dot paper. So you could use a Sharpie, but I'm going to use the Stays On ink and a little circle stamp. And I'm going to be stamping onto these little cards some circles. So the Stays On stamp pad is really good to use because it's a permanent ink. It will not react to water when you go to use the watercolors. So I'm going to just do a total of 6 circles on two cards. So that will give me a total of 12 color options. So for this project, it's really important that you use tubes of watercolor. I've got just these Artist Loft brand. They're just an inexpensive student grade paint. I'm going to choose my colors that I want to place on the card. I've got a mix of some basic colors, which I've got set aside here. And then I'm also going to be using some metallics as well. So to apply the color, I'm using a paint spatula here, and I'm going to squeeze some of the color into the dot and use the tip of the paint spatula just to help put it into place. And I'm going to fill up each dot with my paints. I am keeping my basic colors on one card, except for the black and white. I'm going to be putting the black and white over onto the card with the shimmer. But you can just set this up any way you'd like according to how you want to use these. So once you've got your cards all filled up, you're going to set them aside and allow them to dry overnight. In the meantime, I'm going to get the rest of my kit together. So you can use these water tubes watercolor tubes here. You can fill them up with water, they come apart. It fits in here fine, except that once I started to add some more things, it did get a little too bulky, so I had to switch that out. But in the meantime, I'm going to work on creating like a sponge that's going to fit inside the Altoid tin. As I was building this, I do end up changing things out as I go along. It was kind of like a work in progress, as you see. I could just leave this tin as is, but I put this pencil in. I thought it would be really fun to have a mini pencil, which you can get at dollar stores. That's where I got mine. But it was just too bulky when I tried to close the lid. So to get this pencil though to fit properly, I discovered that the eraser was the end that held the lead in place, but it was just a little bit too long. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off that eraser. I'm going to put that back into place. I left enough so I can pull that out so I can add some more lead as needed. And now it fits in there nicely, but it was still too bulky for the lid. So I'm changing out that water tube watercolor brush. I'm going to add these little paint brushes instead. So I'm going to cut them down to size, and I will be adding a total of 2 of these paint brushes. So I also wanted to add an eraser to this, and some watercolor papers. For the watercolor papers, I just added a mini binder clip, and that will keep them together. And I realized too, since I changed out the paintbrushes, I needed a place for my water. So I dug out my magnet tape, and I've got some 2 larger paint pans. And I'm going to stick the sticky magnets to the back of the 2 pans, and I'm going to use those for my water. So that will give me 1 water to clean off my brush and 1 water to use to mix with the watercolors. Now, of course, you're probably like, where would I get the water from? Well, I will make sure that I have a water bottle with me whenever I go out with this little kit. So now I can put those little containers, paint pans into place. And now I needed to cut down my sponge because now it was too big. So I'm just going to use my scissors and trim that down so it'll fit in that little spot next to the paint pans, the empty paint pans, and my eraser. I'm cutting that down to size as well, so it will fit inside that one last little space that you see there. It actually was perfect. I've got all the necessities for this little kit, which is awesome. The sponge was too tall, so I just went ahead and trimmed that down just to make it a little bit more flat because I need to add my paint dot papers. So I did need to just flatten this out a bit. All right, my paint dots are all nice and dry. Now all I need to do is add the names of all the paints underneath each color. I stamped them in a way so I would have enough room to write the names. I'm also writing the names in a Sharpie, which again is not water activated, so then my names will not get smudged. But yeah, then all you'll need to do is place these little cards into place. You can put these into some sleeves if you like, just to help to protect those paints. I didn't bother to today, but yeah, that was it. You've got a nice cute little mobile art kit. You could take it with a journal or just use those little water cards. And make sure when you finish using it, you allow everything to dry well, and you could use the lid as your mixing palette. I just love this little tin. So this next project is a really quick and easy one. I love this tin. I found it at the thrift store for $1. I am not going to change anything about this. I thought it was really pretty, but I did need to decorate the inside a little bit. I thought it was a little boring. So I'm just taking some measurements. First of all, because I wanted to create an accordion journal, just a mini journal to place inside. So I'm using this Arteza mixed media paper, and it's perforated, so I was able to tear these sheets out. And then again, I'm going to be using my paper trimmer to cut some long strips down to size. Another option would be to use the Strathmore mixed media paper if you'd like. It is a lot thicker, so you will have to keep that in mind. I decided to use the Arteza because it was thinner, so I thought I could get some more folds to fit inside my tin. So as mentioned, I needed to cut these strips down. I needed a total of 2 of these strips, and you can see they're going to fit inside the tin. And then I'm going to be taking this scoring board. It's the Martha Stewart scoring board. I don't know if this is available any longer, but wanted this to be like score lines to be 2 1/4 inches apart from each other. So I'm just taking my ruler and measuring that distance and then marking it off with a pencil onto my scoreboard because I was just basing it off the marks that were already there and I was getting confused. So I decided to create my own registration marks, and now I'm going to go ahead and score my paper. As I said, this is going to be an accordion fold, so you do need to do several score lines so then you can fold up your paper, as you will be seeing me do here. I'm going to take my strips and just go ahead and start to fold those, and I'm going to be doing the same thing to both strips of paper. Okay, so once you have your 2 strips of paper ready to go, we need to attach these together. It's getting a little bit confused here, but once I've got that figured out, I realized I needed to cut one of those little extra flaps away, and it's just a little strip. You could save that strip if you like for a project. And now I can go ahead and attach those 2 strips together here, and that will create a nice little accordion fold right there. I am going to use some double-sided adhesive tape, but of course use any glue that you would like to attach the 2 pieces together. All right, so the 2 strips are together now, and they'll fit in that box nicely. I decided to use my bone folder just to help to make those folds a little bit more crisp. I felt like then it will sit inside my tin a little bit better as well. It'll stay a little bit flatter, but in this video today, I'm not going to be decorating that folder, but I am going to decorate the inside of the tins. I've got these fun little papers that I got from an online shop several years ago, and I thought they would be perfect to put inside the tin. They kind of look like a mixed collage, which I thought was really fun. It's got kind of an antique-y look, which goes really nicely with the theme of the tin. So again, just like before with my past tins, you lay it down onto the paper, trace around it, and then cut off the excess and trim it down until it fits inside your tin. I will be using the Aleene's Industrial Strength Glue Stick to adhere these papers as well. Okay, so I'm going to fold my little journal back up, and I decided I'm going to use some string to wrap around our little journal and then tie it off with a simple bow. That will just help to hold it together so then when you open your tin, it's not going to come flying out at you. And I thought it was also a pretty little touch until I have the time to decorate this, but I think this is just so fun. It would actually make a really fun little keepsake as well. spray painted 2 tins as I wasn't sure which color I wanted to go for this next project. I ended up using this nice dark green. These mint tins were actually from Dollar Tree. You can get these mints there. One thing I will say is that as you're opening the lid, the paint may chip off. I'm okay with that, but if you're not, then you want to make sure the paint cures really well before you use it. I'm going to be using these little mini battery operated, mini lights. They're like little fairy lights. They're actually meant for cards. You do need a specific battery for them, a battery that's nice and flat. Just be aware that you will end up having to change out the batteries. This one was really fun to put together, but I will say, sometimes when I make a project, I will kind of have it in my mind that I may need to redo a project, and I personally am okay with doing that. But if you aren't, then I would definitely omit the lights, so then you don't even have to worry about changing the battery. So before adding the battery though, I decided I would decorate the cover. So I've got this piece of scrapbook paper and I'm just going to figure out which part of the image I want to use. Now, the scene reminded me of the mountains and the forest here where I live in British Columbia, so I thought it would be fitting to use this inside of the tin. And the reason why I'm using this is because I wanted to hide all that embossing that was on the lid. So again, just flipping it upside down, tracing around it, and then cutting out the part that I want to use inside the tin. And just as before, I am using my Aleene's Industrial Strength glue stick to place the paper inside the lid. Okay, so for the battery pack, I want to separate all my wires, and I'm going to be using a piece of Velcro on the back side. This does have a sticky back, so I removed the backing and I stuck the Velcro and the battery pack together. That's going to allow me to remove the battery pack and change out the battery if I need to. You may be able to figure out another way to do that. If you do, awesome. Drop that idea down in the comment section. That would be very helpful. Okay, I put my battery pack into place where I want it to go. I want to make sure that the button that's on there is accessible, as I'm going to be using a separate button to put on top so I can press that. I removed the backing off of the Velcro. I'm going to put that battery pack into place on the deeper part of the tin. So now I can start to bend my wires into place, so then I have all my lights kind of distributed. There's a total of 3 lights. I'm not sure if these come in like with more lights or not. I know you can get circles as well. But you can see I'm bending the wires. I am going to be gluing those down into place, and I'm only going to be gluing part of it. I want to make sure that there's some slack in the part of the wire that's attached to the battery pack, like closer to the battery pack, so then I can remove it and remove the batteries as needed. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I've glued some of the wire into place that'll help hold the lights in place. And you can see I already started to add some moss. This is preserved reindeer moss, but all I did was started off adding the moss on the sides by using some hot glue and pressing that into place. And then I'm being very careful where I put my glue because I don't want to glue all of my wire down. I do, again, want to make sure there's a bit of give there. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of moss onto the battery pack just to help to camouflage it. Again, just being very careful where I add the hot glue because I don't want it to cover up my button. I'll also be using this little deer button to activate the switch. So I'll be gluing that on here in a moment. I just wanted to make sure that that was going to work. It's got a little loop on the back that touches the little on and off switch. Here, I'm just going to show you how I can just take little Cricut weeding tool and pull that Velcro to lift the battery pack. I didn't fully do it, but was able to lift it a little bit. Now I'm adding just the tiniest bit of hot glue to the back of that deer button, and I'm going to put it on top of the switch. You can see how I can turn that on and off. You want to be careful how much glue you use, because you could accidentally glue the switch completely shut and then it won't even be operational. Adding a little bit of extra glue at the base of the deer's feet, that will help hold it into place. Adding some more moss, and I'm going to just continue to add layers. I've got like some tree buttons here as well. I'm checking to make sure that that deer switch is working, and it does. I was really happy. I've got the trees in place that help to camouflage a bit of the background, like the battery pack and some more of the wires, without having me to add too much more glue. A little touch of nature here. I am adding some branches to the inside of the tin. You just want to make sure that you test every once in a while that the lid is going to close. And if any of the preventives are preventing it from closing, then you'll just need to trim those pieces off. I also have this cute little owl button. I actually picked these up from my local dollar store. I've also seen buttons like this at, say, craft stores such as Michael's. But yeah, I have this little owl and I wanted him to be perching on a branch. So I just cut one down, and I'm going to add a bit of glue and make sure it has contact with the tin. That way here, I've got a place to put the little owl. I didn't have enough branches there originally, so I just added a little extra, putting some glue onto the back of the owl, and I'm going to put that little guy into place and allow that glue to set. All right, so now to decorate the rest. I have these camping stickers in my stash. I'm going to add those to the lid, on the inside of the lid. So I'm just picking a couple of them out. I'm going to add some foam tape to the back, trim them down a little bit as needed, and then put them into place. I was thinking if you wanted, you could create a little scene on the lid as well, but I wanted to try and keep mine simple as I went kind of all out on the other side. I also wanted to decorate the top because, again, I wanted to hide the embossing. So I've got this sticker, and this time around I'm using some hot glue to adhere it to the lid. And then I'm going to add some trim around the sticker just to help to finish it off a little. I love how this tin turned out. It's such a fun piece. I don't think I've seen anybody do a little mini tin like this with lights, which I thought was such a fun added touch, but let me know what you think. I have so many more ideas for you to check out in this playlist right here. It is full of trash to treasure inspiration. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today, and we will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.